we'll move on to our next presentation. And for that, may I please call on stage Mr. Tony Navin, Senior Vice President, SnapDeal, for a presentation on learning from the cross-industry for the auto sector in digital world. Sir, can we please have you on stage?
Of course, as you might know, SnapDeal is more a B2C platform. Hence, most of the insights that I'm going to be showcasing is predominantly from a B2C aspect. Having said that, some of the trends and insights could be extrapolated and useful for B2B as well. So the whole idea behind this is to show trends, show insights, so that it can spark some thoughts of what can be replicated in your stream in the auto industry. Just a quick view of India in itself. I thought I'll start from really like 20,000 feet level. I think all of us know how complex India is, how large India is, but the good part is, we're a fairly young population. Almost 65% is just the youth, and almost 7 million people getting added every single year into just passing out of colleges. And these are a set of people who are super well connected, tech savvy. They are connected even from a data standpoint with over 200 million smartphones. Almost everyone knows how to use apps, smartphones, etc. And we are a set of population who spends, splurges, leaving aside the bottom of the pyramid. A large chunk of people can afford, and it reflects in the kind of spends we do, multiple aspects that I've highlighted over here. The data point I want you to focus on is on the internet population in itself. It's over 400 million people who are on the internet. Hardly 150 odd million people were there 2-3 years back. And interesting stats around that is 300 million of that population is active every single month. So 25% of our overall population is active on internet seeking information, trying to purchase, browsing, etc. And within that, the interesting part is the non-urban segment is the one that is growing the fastest, almost double the rate of the urban population. The figures that I put over there of 80% and 100% in the monthly active and the mobile internet users is actually the growth of the non-urban population. So it's almost double the rate of the urban. So a large chunk of people in the non-urban segment is coming on board onto the internet platform, browsing, purchasing. So the opportunity for everybody over here is also how do you reach out to that kind of population remotely, be it distributors, SMEs, etc., using e-commerce or using technology. So how does this reflect onto SnapDeal? For us, 65% of all our transactions are from Tier 2, Tier 3, and beyond. It's not the metros. So the metros constitute only 35% of all our transactions. And this is a clear case because in a lot of Tier 2, Tier 3, and beyond, consumers, there's no dearth of affordability. It's actually only availability which is the constraint. And that shows in the kind of products that we see people buying from Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, right? Be it televisions, cameras, computers, musical instruments, pretty much expensive stuff that are being bought very actively from cities like Bhopal, Nagpur, Indore, Vellore, Udaipur, Guwahati. Almost like 5-7% of our all transactions are Northeast because a lot of people don't deliver to Northeast. So the opportunity over here is essentially the fact that if we can build on the supply chain and reach to these consumers, even at an additional cost, because availability is really the constraint and not affordability, people would be willing to spend that extra dollar or extra rupee to purchase these products. So that's what we've noticed even at SnapDeal. If we were to charge something on the shipping front for a customer located in some remote locations, people are willing to spend because access to these products are a constraint. And a lot of the demand and trade gets nurtured and gets unlocked just because information is available. In the previous panel, somebody was mentioning there are like tons of part numbers that are there. It's very complicated for people on the ground to understand. I think that's where the real deal is. If that kind of information and cataloging can happen and digitized format can be provided to people in remote locations, trade in itself will get initiated and unlocked. So where do these people really go and search for information? And where do they go and purchase? Before purchasing, where do they go and look for this information? So based on a study that was conducted, almost 50% of people look at digital discovery, which means people going and searching online, either Google or looking at social media as a segment. People also look at brand site, right? So your own specific websites, people do tend and come and look for it before they decide to purchase any particular product. And then the third one is if the products are available in e-tailers location, people do go there and start looking for those products. So these are like three really big chunks of channels through which consumers go and search and decide whether to buy a particular product or not. And hence, the value or the learning is there enough investment going into the digital discovery piece? Be it B2B or B2C, there will be consumers who are going out and searching on Google. Is there enough investment going into SEO of your particular website so that when somebody is searching for a particular product, your site comes up? Is your site mobile friendly, right? I'll come to that. There's a specific insight over there as well. So the investment in being more digital is extremely crucial in this day and age. Does it differ variedly for an auto industry? Not really. 60% of people before they buy a vehicle research online. And out of that 60%, 70% of the research happens on third-party sites, not on the OEM sites. How much of influence does any of you have on the third-party sites? And these third-party sites could be blogs, could be forums, could be just comparison sites as well. But how much of engagement, partnership, investment goes into influencing decisions on these key areas where consumers tend to spend a bunch of time before they decide on a particular product? So that's the learning over here. So which are the channels or the form factors where people go and look for? Now, another study that conducted was that in 2015, 50% of the people were already browsing on the mobile and looking for products before they purchased. My sense is that is slightly under-indexed. The real figure is probably north of 65, 70% is my sense. But essentially, it doesn't really apply only for small products. It's not like people are searching only for smartphones online and then buying it online. It's for every single product line. If I were to take e-commerce in itself, 25-30% of all smartphones being sold in the country are sold online. That was hardly like 5% about 3 years back. So a lot of product lines, a large chunk of the industry itself has moved online to e-commerce. And that doesn't mean that it's restricted to only highly standardized products. Even non-standardized products like furniture or any other like fashion, etc., are being bought online more and more. And people's discovery is predominantly on the mobile form, right? How does that reflect on SnapDeal side? Almost 75% of all our transactions are through mobile. Only 25% are through PC. And this is for every single product line. And this is not restricted to only low ticket sizes. I'm talking about across the board. So even consumers who were earlier, even like a couple of years back, spending more time on a PC to discover products which were higher end products, more higher involvement products like say a washing machine or a refrigerator, they've started spending time on the mobile to discover these products, to compare these products and purchase these products. So that's a massive shift that has happened, and which could also mean that a lot of the high involvement purchases like vehicles or maybe other devices and other auto products could possibly happen from a mobile standpoint. So how much of investment and focus from your side is going into keeping your site being mobile friendly or being discovered on the mobile front is what the question I wish to put over here. Another piece around this is, a few people might have spoken about omni-channel, but this is something we very strongly believe. The traditional form of interacting between a customer and a retailer was like a 100-meter racetrack, right? So as a customer, I would go to a retailer shop or a dealer location. I'll go purchase the product, and then I go back home. I try the product, and if I have an issue, I go back to the dealer or the retailer, tell him that, listen, I have an issue, I want to return the product. I raise a complaint, the guy returns the product or repairs it or whatever he does. So it used to be a simple racetrack where it was just two-way communication that was going on. And then over time, that changed, and now it's a lot more complex. As a customer, I do research online, I get influenced by people in social media, and then I go offline to check the product out, touch and feel the product, go back online, compare prices, compare deals that are available, and then maybe perhaps even purchase online or offline. And then once I've purchased, if I have an issue, I then go and tweet about it or post it on Facebook saying I have an issue, and they expect the brand to respond to it promptly and address it in any of these multiple channels that they interact. And maybe even the return process has to be seamless. Somebody has to come and pick it up from their office or home. So the entire number of touch points that a consumer interacts with a brand right now is far more than what it used to be earlier. And hence, an omni-channel strategy is not necessarily only a strategy where online and offline comes together and saying, you can buy online and pick it up offline. That's not the only thing. But how do you connect people through all these touch points, integrate it, and also from a brand standpoint, tag a customer across these multiple channels. Hence, right now, it's no more a two-way track or a one-way track, but it's a complex spider web where people are interacting in multiple forms, multiple channels, multiple touch points. And that's a challenge even for us that we are trying to engage on. So we've tried to integrate in a manner that we are able to identify a customer even if they are complaining on social media or any other form, and trying to address those concerns or requests promptly by just identifying and tagging a customer through multiple channels. So that's an important lesson that we've learned, that we are focused on, and that we believe will be something that all brands over here will have to also focus on. And in that regard, some initial form of omni-channel is something that we also had launched. It's still early stage, but we gave it a shot and said, okay, let's try this out, right? Where we try and sell a two-wheeler online. Consumer need not pay the entire amount because they may still want to touch and feel the product. You can buy by placing a small amount online, and then you can choose the dealer from where you can go and pick up the two-wheeler. So a lot of other things need to also get added in order to make it a success. You need to integrate service, you need to integrate affordability, which I'll also talk about. But the real success of this, the journey of this is essentially initially integrating online and offline, and then providing more services to make it easier for a customer to decide to purchase very large ticket items like this or very important purchases like this in the online form. And in addition to it, I thought I'll probably highlight some of the trends which are really making waves globally, and we all know are making waves in India as well. But as a business, from a business standpoint, I don't think many companies have really figured out what do we need to do in these trends, right? So even from a SnapDeal standpoint, we are also trying to figure out how each of these trends are going to play out and how can we become an integral part of each of these trends. For example, this is from a B2C standpoint. Photos are shared extensively on multiple platforms on social media. The figure over there is a ridiculous figure, almost like 3 billion photographs being shared on a daily basis across platforms. And these are not necessarily only personal photographs. These are photographs which influence businesses as well. So there are commercial related photographs and messages, etc., which are being exchanged. How can businesses really tag along these and create a viral effect to influence a consumer is an important thing that all of us need to think about. Even from an engagement standpoint, the amount of time being spent by people, be it in India or abroad, especially in the segment of 18 to 34, some of us haven't really figured out what do we need to do with, let's say, a Pinterest or a Snapchat, and how do we really make business out of it. A lot of B2B companies have been starting to do that in US, and those learnings have to be taken up over here as well. Interesting over here is video. Of course, video is like, growth is quite ridiculous here in India and globally. And there's been a good progression of how video has really changed itself from linear, which was essentially a television, to an on-demand, to semi-live, to a real live. And one of the things that we do, for example, from a B2B standpoint, we have sellers, right? We have like 3 lakh sellers on our platform. And we have to interact with these 3 lakh sellers as well. So we have an advertising platform where sellers will have to advertise on SnapDeal to promote themselves. But not all sellers, and typically these are small enterprises, small entrepreneurs who just come on board in e-commerce. Very similar to, let's say, small workshops or dealerships who are trying to do more business. But how do we engage with them? Interestingly, we use, for example, Facebook. We use Periscope. Some of these these tools where we try and highlight, we basically have like live interactions with sellers. In Facebook, when we do a live interaction, there are like at any point in time 300 to 400 sellers. These are small guys who are coming live on Facebook, interacting, asking questions, to which we provide answers promptly. So the technology is reached a point where even small enterprises are fairly open in terms of accepting, let's say, new formats, be it photos or videos or any other new format of social media. And that's a way to figure out how we can interact with them even further. And that's one example of how, from a B2B standpoint, not from a B2C standpoint, we've been able to interact with our sellers also. Interestingly, Pinterest, the second most important reason why people use Pinterest is for shopping and to identify products. Not many companies have figured out how to do that. US, yes, a lot of companies are doing it, but in India still people are trying to figure out. Even Instagram, I'm sure a lot of people know, is being used for identifying products where people can purchase. So how can that be useful for you is something that's food for thought. Messaging, as everyone knows, has changed the way people exchange information with each other. SMS is so passé, and its growth is phenomenal. But what has happened with messaging is that messaging has changed the way businesses can possibly even interact with customers. So that's the new age of messaging that we are entering, not just you and I interacting with each other, but actually businesses interacting with consumers. The reason? Because a message is so well constructed that it remembers the identity of a customer. When a customer is interacting with the brand through a messaging platform, the advantage is all the history is always there in one particular platform. You know the customer, you know the timestamp of all these interactions, you know the specific details, you know the preferences, so you can always personalize your interaction. And a lot of businesses have come on board into this. Facebook has recently launched their API where businesses can interact with consumers through their messenger. It's a beautiful tool. Do check it out. It's a way where if a customer has an issue of any sorts, either they want to raise a service request, or they have an issue with a return, or they want more information about a new product that's been launched, all of that can be done in one particular chat ecosystem. So we believe that messaging will be the next form of interaction with consumers from a business standpoint. This is another question that was asked to me, saying how can learnings from SnapDeal in terms of how do we push more consumers to buy higher involvement products, right? Products which are more expensive, or products which require more intricate nature, maybe servicing, etc. So there are 3 parts to it, and this might involve more products over here as well, which could be auto, etc. Affordability is the most critical that we've seen. Products which are, let's say, 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, etc., consumers seek some form of affordability, and that doesn't necessarily mean a discount. It only means that can, let's say, an online loan be provided through the platform? And we are inching towards that. It's only a matter of time before, on the fly, with the kind of information and data that exists, the repository of information that exists about a customer, on the fly loans can be provided for consumers. And if that can be provided, you actually make it a lot easier for a consumer to purchase very large ticket items online. A very recent thing that we did was we implemented an interest-free EMI in partnership with Bajaj Finserv. I'm sure you know that when you're buying large appliances or kitchen appliances offline, you can go and register yourself with Bajaj. It's an offline process, and then you don't have to pay any interest per se, but there's an EMI for 10 months, 12 months, 6 months, etc. So that improves the affordability. We implemented it online. And post that, the conversions of large ticket items actually almost like went up by 50%. That's a significant jump. That's because people now feel that I can buy a 1 lakh worth television by paying it in installment over 12 months without paying an interest, which otherwise I will have to go offline, provide my pay slips, etc., and then do that whole paperwork. So if that can be done online, which is already being done to an extent, that will ease and bring down the barrier for purchasing large ticket items online. Assured buyback is another one, which is being implemented in auto also. In terms of providing the consumer the assurance that if they wish to upgrade a vehicle or a product at a later point in time, it will be bought back at a particular rate. These things are being developed online as well for smaller ticket items, relatively smaller. It could be like an iPhone, where people say, listen, you have an old Samsung and you want to upgrade to an iPhone, here's an assured buyback, and I'll buy back the Samsung seamlessly. So when you're delivering a new iPhone to your home or office, we'll pick up the old phone and credit the amount automatically into your account. And these are being done right now across e-commerce portals, and so is SnapDeal doing. And because of that, the conversions of higher ticket items of smartphones have increased. And the same thing can be extrapolated for other products as well. And from a service bundling is a very critical aspect for products which require offline intervention. In our omni-channel piece, we also partnered with one of the largest tire manufacturers, where we said consumers can buy the tire online, and because it requires servicing, they will have to get it serviced offline. So a consumer can go to the nearest store of the brand store and get it serviced without paying anything because they've already paid for the product online. So these kind of omni-channel interventions and partnerships are very, very critical from pushing large ticket items. Similarly, things like insurance bundling, if somebody is buying a two-wheeler, providing insurance, which is a critical one, online, if that can be figured out, along with a loan, can bring down the barrier down to ensure that consumers are easily transacting. And the ease of servicing itself, in terms of engaging with consumers for ordering a service, etc., which Nitin mentioned about Gaadi Fix. Interesting service, which is a requirement as well, where as a part of the product life cycle, if a consumer needs a service, can they do it without calling or without interacting with a physical person? Can they do it through an app or through online and seamlessly get its service? Somebody comes and delivers the service, or somebody comes and picks it up and gets it done. So these kind of service bundling are also very critical. And the third pillar of this is also trust, which is multiple factors. It's not like one or two specific factors. But these three are critical levers which help large ticket purchases online. So in summary, one, I mentioned focus on the non-urban areas because that's a very large opportunity that we ourselves are seeing with 65% demand coming from there. Having a strong online presence and being mobile focused, very, very important. Using digital marketing to drive more users to discover your brand and your product is critical. Being omni-channel focused is also extremely important, especially for categories which require offline servicing. And building in the service piece around affordability, service bundling is also important if we have to bring down the barrier. So that's about it from my side, based on the learnings that we have, and hopefully it's been useful for you. Thank you. Happy to take questions.
My name is Philip from Popular Automobiles. Question is, how much time by the time you get into trying to sell cars online?
Interestingly, we tried, right? About a year back, very small scale, we tried partnering with someone to try and sell cars. It's a lot more complex. It's not super different from selling two-wheelers. As long as there is offline and online interaction happening, if consumers are interested in a particular product, see, the discovery of the product happens online, right? So people go visit forums, visit the brand site, look at comparison sites. So discovery happens online. So it's not very difficult to connect the dots and make that customer convert into an offline transaction also. So it is not going to I doubt if consumers are going to swipe their card and buy a car online completely. But what might happen, which will happen, is that consumers will show their interest by paying an initial amount and then converting the remaining amount offline. So it's going to be an online and offline play put together. So it's only a matter of time before that happens, because two-wheelers already has started. It's only a matter of time before four-wheelers also kicks in. How much time specifically? Okay, so that was a question you had asked.
Also, is there a trend internationally of people trying to have an online sales for cars?
Yeah, China.
Except the Tesla part of it, of course.
No, China, for example, is a massive market where online sales happen for cars. Mercedes did this about 2 years back. They sold about 120 cars or something like that. So yes, there are already global markets where online purchases do happen. But India is still, at least a year away before something like that can happen here.
So Tony, my name is Madhukar Manpre. I'm the founder of My New Car. So actually what you're saying, we just started about 18 months back.
Congratulations.
So you can book your car online. The whole transaction does not happen, but the booking happens online.
Yeah. So just like the two-wheeler I mentioned, where the booking happens online and then the remaining transaction happens offline. So there it is. There's already someone there. All right. Thank you, everyone.